It's me, your boy, Sergeant Hooks and Henshins, all that. Man, say what you will about Kamen Rider Revice having some rough spots, alright? The 30s were rough. Daiji's little, I'm a sort of villain arc was, kind of rough. And other little pieces, things with Kagura, whatever, Akaishi, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. This episode right here, probably my favorite out of the entire series so far. Um, this was a fantastic episode and one that I thought about more today while I was at work and stuff. Really truly capitalized on the family unit centric kind of values and ways we go about interacting with people in our family. And I really like that. They did a really good job with that in this week's episode. But let's get into some of the details here. So, as you know from last week with the preview and everything, Genta wants to settle things with Vale. So, he is discussing with his family about it. Blah blah blah. They get a call, and here comes in the well, actually, first before any of that, I'm sorry. Episode starts. They play the theme song during the episode itself. We get no episode title sequence. It's just played while they're fighting because Vale's about to get murdered. Remember, Masumi came in with trying to transform with the Libera driver or the weekend driver. I'm sorry, and he gets stopped. Vale comes up to him, takes the stamps on himself, gets a little bit of power, not much, still gets his ass beat, and escapes. And Masumi goes after him. Well, the siblings leave, whatever, everybody's gone, and Masumi confronts Vale and says, "Hey, Gento wants to settle things. I want to give you an upper hand, blah blah blah." And Vale's totally thrown off guard, but is whatever, I'll take it. Unveils a crimson vice stamp, very similar to the rolling vice stamp that the vice had with the jacked revice form. So gives it to him, the crimson vice stamp, and says, "Use this to blah blah blah, whatever." Right, and a little bit later after that, we get another scene at the happy bathhouse or whatever. Whole family's talking about what's going on and everything. And Gento's like, I'm set. I want to do this. I want to settle things with Vale. And in comes George, and he says, "Here, it's all done." Opens it up. Boom, Deathstream driver. So it's the Vale driver modified with two blue pieces on the side. I'm this close to pre-ordering it. Oh my god, it's such a beautiful driver, and the suit will get there. But goddamn. Anyway. So gives him the new driver on the Hercules vice stamp and says, this is what you use, blah, blah, blah. I finally perfected the system. It no longer draws on, it no longer has any negative effects on you, and anybody can use it and whatever. Which gives more credence to the fact that, to the theory that it looks like Yukimi might be doing a henshin in the new movie, in the Versus, or not the Versus movie, the summer movie or whatever. But anyway, so while that's happening, we spot back to Akaishi, who's falling apart. He's turning to dust or whatever. I'm like, and he's scared about it. He's like, "Oh my god, my emotions are coming back and I'm falling apart. What's happening to me?" And then Daiji comes in and they kind of talk for a bit, and he tries to do the whole head rub shit again. And Daiji's like, "Please stop, leave me the fuck alone," basically. Which I think is really funny that he finally is like, "This is fucking weird." And he gets a voicemail from Genta telling him of the fight, when it's gonna happen, where it's gonna happen, all of that. And so he's gonna show up. We also get a really, really nice scene between Genta and Yukimi, where he apologizes to her for the life he's given her. That he feels awful for the fact that he has cursed his kids with the, Gifu genes, and also in general made her life not normal. And she goes, "Well, what's a normal life?" And he's like, "What?" She's like, "What's a normal life?" She goes, "There's never any specific plan for what we had for our future and our lives together. I just knew, basically amounts to, I just knew that I loved you and that I wanted to be with you." And she said, you may have turned into a Kamen Rider 25 years ago, and then recently, yes, technically. But in those years, yeah, you didn't turn into a Kamen Rider, but you still transformed 3 times. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "When you became a father 3 times in a row with Ikki, with Daiji, and with Sakura." And we see a little homage, a little montage, I'm sorry, of scenes with him as with each kid as either a little kid or a baby or whatever, and his specific relationship with each kid and how he handles them and everything. And it's really touching, and I think it hit for me, and I'm probably a little biased being a family man myself, having my own 2 sons, my wife, and family in general. It probably hit a little harder, but it really, honestly, this episode again is probably one of the best to actually utilize the family dynamic the best to push the episode forward, and I really like that. I do wish we would have somehow gotten it on Father's Day. I think it would have hit even harder. But yeah, she's like, I thank you. She goes, you transformed 3 separate times into a dad. And, I love the life that we've had. She's like, just stay alive. Find some way to stay alive and come back to us. That's all I ask. And he wants to, and you can see that he's struggling with it because he's not sure what's going to happen. They have this whole connection, him and Vale, and that if one dies, does the other die? What's going to happen? Um, so that whole thing is going on, of course. And we finally get to the quarry where they're going to have their fight. And as they get started, Daiji, Sakura, and Ikki show up, and Vice, of course. And uh, pretty sure if I'm not mistaken, yeah, that's right. Akaishi comes in like a fucking asshole and is fighting everybody, right? Mainly fighting Ikki. Ikki's beating the shit out of him. They end up destroying him, actually, pretty much. I mean, I think he's in next week's episode, but he's really falling apart now. So, they're doing that, and Daiji is trying to get in and interrupt and do goofy shit, and Sakura stops him, and they have a bit of a fight, and it's actually kind of interesting. I kind of really liked it, that she had a bit of a fight with them, and she actually kind of kicks his ass, and I think he needed it. I think he needed to, like, lose to his sister, his little sister, to be like, okay, like, Ikki's beating my ass, my sister's beating my ass, like, I need to, like, take into consideration what they're saying, at least somewhat. And I really do like that. Because although Daiji's had a bit of a messy arc in the last few episodes as far as, like, the whole fall to the dark side type thing, it somewhat makes sense because, you think about it from the start of the show where he was supposed to be Revice. Then his brother had to take over because he couldn't do it. And, he had the whole arc with Kagero and, that dark side of himself. And then him gaining more control over that. And, then eventually, the clash that him and Kagero had. Like, he's had a lot of, like, connections ripped away from him type of thing. And things that he was thinking he was going to have taken away, even though he's worked so hard. And I think this is a really good episode for Daiji as well. And I think for what Genta teaches him. So, Vale shows up with Masami and, of course, George, right behind Genta. And, Vale uses the Crimson Vice stamp to transform finally, so we get the Crimson Veil form, and it looks really nice. It's a basic-ish recolor and redo of the kit bash, if you will, of the Jacked Revice form, just substituting the blue for red and making like a new chest piece. And it looks really nice. It looks pretty badass. Red and black has always been such an awesome color combo, and I've always really liked Vale's form in general as a demon. So seeing that heightened up and him become like a pseudo rider sort of is really cool, and I really like how the suit looks. Then we get my man Genta. He puts on that Destrine driver, and if you look at it closely, there's a fucking 2 and a 5 on it for 25. And yes, as like a cheeky nod to the fact that Ikki's driver has a 50 on it. And yes, as a nod in a way to the 25 years ago when he last transformed as Vale, and when everything happened with stopping Vale at that point. But also, and I just picked this up from my boy Zio Agato, also a reference to episode 25, which was the episode where we first see Genta transform into Vale. Like, this, man, say what you will about the show and like certain things being goofy or out of place or like motivation being off, whatever. And in some ways, there are just some episodes, and in certain ways, they knew what the hell they were doing, and I'm so proud of them. So he puts on the driver. It looks awesome. He has the Hercules stamp, and he stamps it, the top of it, and then he henshin, and he does it similar to how he transformed as Junpei, not as Genta back then when he was Junpei, kind of like a seppuku type thing into himself. Does that similarly. The henshin sequence is cool. There's this whole like idea of like this shell that forms over him, almost to me kind of alluded to, yes, I guess like some people were saying like Kamen Rider Black's first transformation, but almost to me what it struck out more is it almost looked like a what if he would have become a dead man, like him like breaking out of that demon form and utilizing that power, almost similar to like Kamen Rider Chase, right? Like when he was Machine Chaser, that form compared to what Kamen Rider Chase looks like, and or Chaser or whatever, and how it's like similar, like it breaks off some of the pieces, but the base thing is still there, kind of a thing. I like that. I love how the suit looks. I love that it reused Sentry's suit, the undersuit and the gloves a little bit, the armor which is a bit painted, and even the helmet being like a redo on the demon's helmet, I think is totally fine. I think that doesn't bother me at all. The color scheme is great. I love the like Hercules beetle like horn off the front of it, and the way that it forms on him is super cool. and how it sounds and everything is great. Now it has the same voice as the two side driver and half the little bear driver and the Revice driver. So yeah, he transforms and they fight, and this is a fucking awesome fight. I really am sorry to like swear a bit more of this episode. I was pumped as hell. Like I was literally like, if I would have been watching it by myself, I would have been hooping and hollering watching it. Like my kids at the time were sleeping, so like I couldn't be too loud, but I wanted to be like, yeah, get his ass. Oh, do it again. But it's great because it has a lot of emotional depth to it. Not only just the fact that Genta wants to settle things with Vale and figure that all out, but also he's trying to prove to Daiji that you can fall as far as he did and still be able to forgive yourself or a part of yourself and move forward. And I really like that a lot. So he fights with Vale. They get some good strikes in each other. Boom, boom, boom. The final hit, they do this big like rider punch with each other and then a kick. And as he does it, he is successful. Vale starts, disintegrating and whatever. But you see cracks form in the suit, and then he dehensions and demorphs, dehensions, whatever. And in a twist, he takes the stamp, brings it up to where the particles are, where Vale is at, and stamps himself with it again. And at the time, I'm like, what? Why? What are we doing? Like, I thought it was going to be something where, like, Vale was going to, make a new contract with somebody else, and that would void his previous contract, and then he could just kill Vale, and blah, 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 and maybe he was connected to Masumi, and then Masumi would die as a result, and whatever. No. So it was a big setup. So apparently, in last week's episode, he had come there to talk to everybody with the weekend group and everything. We just didn't see the scene, though, where he stayed behind a bit to talk to Masumi. It was a plan all along for Masumi to give that stamp to Vale to goad him into fighting Genta, knowing that Genta would probably be successful beating him, be able to reabsorb him, put him back in his body, and essentially seal him away. Which I think is really cool. And there's a lot of really cool cinematography with the fight, with the pyrotechnics and stuff, the choreography, yes, and the effects of like their attacks and everything. We do see him go through the Komodo Dragon stamp and I think the Mogura stamp, the drill one, and also the Kong stamp and what it looks like with his suit, which is really cool. Yeah, and then there's even a part where like they're fighting, and it looks like they're fighting at the like burning bathhouse when they, Vale attacked. We haven't got an explanation for that, how he got out to attack the bathhouse. We don't really know how that happened. But anyway, so they're fighting and everything, and he absorbs them, stamps himself, and like I said, that was the big reveal that it was their plan all along. That he knew, Masumi trusted that George was going to develop a system that would surpass Vale's strength and be able to defeat him. And that Genta would then choose to absorb him back into the stamp himself with it, and keep him contained. And they have this final discussion. He's kind of like, I can't believe that you overcame, my strength and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, he's like, it's all right, I forgive you. And he's like, well, I don't forgive you, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I wanted to destroy you. And he's like, yeah, well, you wanted to destroy Junpei. That was Junpei 25 years ago. You wanted to, and he's gone. I'm Genta, and I have been ever since that day. And essentially, Vale is like, yeah, like they kind of like basically a mutual understanding, sort of, as much as you can with someone like Vale. I'm glad they didn't go the route of just all of a sudden redeeming Vale and making him a good guy and funny or something like that, and him and Vice be buddies or some weird shit. I wasn't expecting Genta to reabsorb him back into himself, and maybe that'll play a part in the summer movie that we're getting, with Deathstream being a part of that as well. But yeah, this episode was kick ass. He gets done fighting him, he goes to Daiji, and he's like, see, that's how it's done. You have to be able to forgive yourself, even if you've made all these mistakes. The show of a good man who has made change is being able to forgive yourself even when you've made these mistakes that have hurt people or made something bad happen or whatever. And it's kind of a good moment for Daiji to see that maybe he, there's some way. I don't know if they're going to do anything really with Kagero. Maybe we'll get a random late game surprise where Kagero will come back and use the Holy Live Stamp in the evil side of the two-side driver, and we'll get a new form or something. I don't know. But makes him really think like maybe things could have gone differently with Kagero. Maybe I handled that poorly and didn't give things a chance to like come to a head and get figured out and accept each other. And I really like that. I like that. And I like how, this idea that, like, you can have this awful past. And also, like, some people have noted, too, and I definitely see this. I've seen this from the start also a little bit here and there, but definitely with Genta's story, is that he definitely reflects Ichigo Hongo in a lot of ways, Takeshi Hongo in a lot of ways, where he was given, forced upon, honestly, these powers by this evil organization. At first, used them for evil purposes, realized the error of his ways, wanted to make amends, and now 25 years later gets to finally break free, this metamorphosis, shed, molt, if you will, and become the true Kamen Rider he always could have been, always should have been. And I really, really enjoy that. This show is doing a really awesome job of really nailing what it means to be a Kamen Rider, and I really like that. With Ikki, to an extent, kind of Daiji, Sakura, what have you. Most of the riders are really hitting on different aspects of what it means to be a rider, and I really like that. So I really liked this end of the story arc for that. Of course, Gift shows up at the end right as they're trying to reconcile with Daiji. Sakura and Ikki are holding their hands out to him to get up, and he's about to grab their hands and reach out to him. And Gift comes in all of a sudden physical. I guess he's done being just a fucking force of nature. And that ends the episode. And next week's supposed to be from the preview, as far as I could tell. Them all henching together. Akaishi's there, laughing. I think Hikaru might be dying or sacrificing himself. Which would make sense for the summer movie, because it looks as though the way they're doing the character poster thing with that, that Tamaki might become the new Over Demons, which I would be fine with. Finally letting him transform. But yeah, so that's what we're getting with next week, is what we're supposed to be getting with that overall. So. I did really, really like this episode. As you can tell. I really enjoyed it. I think they did a fantastic job with it. They did a really good job, ending the arc between Vale and Genta, and honestly exceeding my expectations in a way of the shocking twist parts that we weren't expecting, like him reabsorbing, Vale, and the plan he had with Masumi all along and all of that. Also, Masumi does die, but not before he tells George, I'm proud of you. You're so great. He actually reiterates a thing he said to him as a kid, and that really sticks with George, because George to an extent has had this arc where ever since he's figured out his dad is alive, his kind of cockiness has gone down a little bit. Where at first he was like, I'm George Karazaki, I can invent the fuck out of shit, woohoo. Then he realized his dad was alive, and the only reason he ever did that before inventing anything was to surpass his dad. Realized his dad's alive, and that kind of brought him down a little bit and humbled him a little bit. And I like that this is kind of like an ending arc for him as well, that he can see that, finally get that recognition from his father that you are great at making things and inventing. I do accept you, and you are great. And I really like that too. Again, where everybody's getting a decent arc here, and I really like that. So overall, fantastic episode. A lot longer of a review than I usually do for these, but I just really had to talk about it and gush because I just loved it. As a Rider fan, as a Toku fan, as a dad, it was just really good, and I really liked it. So absolutely a banger 10 out of 10 episode for Revice. I'm really happy that they finally got a 10 out of 10 out of me after it not being that for a while. Not that it's been crazy low, but still. So yeah, so that was the how I feel about the episode. This is the review, the recap, all that stuff. Let me know in the comments below, what did you guys think of the episode? Did you guys like it? Dislike it? In the middle? Did you like the end to Vale and Genta's arc? The suits, the driver, the transformation sequence, all that good stuff. What did you guys think? Also theories. I love stirring the pot and getting theories going of what we think might happen, even though it may not happen that way. It's still fun to kind of think of the possibilities. Let me know in the comments what your guys' possible theories are for how things are going to end up with the end of the series coming pretty soon here. But as always, you stay hooked on Henshins. I'll talk to you later. Don't worry about it. Bye-bye.